In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the control bar in Logic Pro X and show you what each feature and control does. So keep on watching. Alright, so you have learned that Logic Pro X has three main sections in the user interface. The control bar up here, the track section to the left, and the main workspace, which is covering most of the screen and is where you record, edit, arrange, and basically create your music. Now I'm going to dive deeper to show you the specific buttons and features of the control bar up here. Let's begin. Now the first thing you should know is that you can actually customize what buttons and displays will be available in the control bar. If you right-click anywhere inside the control bar, you will get a pop-up where you can choose to customize this section as you would like it to be. In this project, I have it set to the default layout. You can always go back to the default by right-clicking, choosing Customize Control Bar, and in this window you have a button to the lower left that says Restore Defaults. Click that to go back to the default layout of the control bar. Now let's do a quick overview of the control bar. To the left you can see a group of buttons. And here to the far right you have another group of buttons. Both these buttons to the left and these buttons to the right open up extra windows or views in the interface with more features or controls. In the middle of the control bar, you first have a group of buttons called transport controls. They are basically for navigating in your track and for playback and recording. Then you have a LCD display area here, which gives you the most important information of the project you work on. Then there is this group of buttons just to the right of the display area. They represent functions related to recording and playback. Then finally, you have a master volume output fader here, which of course controls the levels going out to your speakers or headphones. Alright, now let's go through each button and feature in the control bar one by one, starting from the far left. The first button here is the library view. It gives you access to the internal instruments that comes with Logic Pro X. You use it to add an instrument to a track you have selected in your track section. The second button is the inspector view, where you can view and edit settings for individual tracks. You simply select a track in your track section and then open up the inspector view, where you can, for example, edit MIDI settings or mixing settings on that individual channel in the mixer. The third button is the most important button for beginners of Logic Pro X. It is the Quick Help view. And when you click it, you get a pop-up window which displays information about practically everything in the user interface. Simply press the Quick Help view button and then hover your mouse cursor above any button or view in the user interface. Then read the description to get a brief overview of what that function does. If you want even more help on a specific button or feature, you can use the keyboard shortcut Command + to access the manual input for that specific function of Logic Pro X. Simply hover your mouse cursor above a button you want to learn more about, and then click Command + on your keyboard. The next button is the Toolbar View, which gives you access to many of the most used tools. It opens up as an extra bar just below the control bar. And as with the control bar, you can easily customize this as well by right-clicking and choosing Customize Toolbar. The next button is the Smart Controls view, which gives you special controls specific for the track you have selected. So if I change the selected track here in the track section, you can see that the smart controls change as well. It is worth noting that you can also access the EQ for every track individually down here in the smart controls. You see the button to access the EQ right here. Then we have the Mixer View button, which of course opens up the full mixer. Here is where you later will mix your tracks to sound professional and amazing. The last button here to the left is the Editor's View, which opens up the editing window. There are several different editing modes. If you have a virtual instrument track, it opens up the piano roll, where you can edit MIDI of the track. If you have an audio track, you get the audio editor. And there is also a special editor for Logic Pro X drummer track. Then we go to the next section of the control bar, which are the transport controls here. These are fairly easy to understand right away. The red button turns on recording. Here is the play button. This button brings the playhead back to the beginning of your project, like this. This button moves the playhead one bar forward. And this one moves it one bar backward in your project, like this. Now let's quickly go through the LCD display. First you have the time indicators, which show where the playhead currently is in your project. The top one is minutes and seconds, and the bottom one marks the bars, beats and divisions. Then you have the markers for the left and right locators. Basically, this is a marked section of your track, like this. You often use this for cycle or loop mode when recording. Then you have the tempo in BPM, and this marks the bar where your project ends. Then you have the time signature of your track and the division of your grid. Next are the MIDI input and output monitors, and then also a monitor for your CPU and disk drive. Alright, next you have the group of buttons which are modes and functions mainly for recording. The first one turns on cycle mode or loop mode, like this. The next one is replace, which is used to do another take of a recording to replace a bad one. Then you have a button called low latency mode, which is good to turn on if you need to reduce latency when recording. Latency is basically the time it takes between when you hit a key on your MIDI keyboard until you hear the final sound on the output in your speakers or headphones. It is very difficult to play tight if you have high latency. I personally always want to go below 10 milliseconds. Then you have a tuner, which is only available if you have an audio track selected. So basically, you can tune your guitar by turning on this button. Then there's a solo button to listen on sections in solo mode. You have a count in button to give you a count before the recording starts. And finally, a metronome button to give you a click track to help you record your performances tighter. To the right, you have these extra buttons that opens up view modes or windows with extra features. The first one is called List Editors, and it gives you access to advanced control of events, markers, and tempo and time signature. Next, you have a button to open up a notepad where you can write notes about your project or even on individual tracks. Then you have this button which opens up the Apple Loops browser. This gives you access to thousands of categorized loops that you can use for your track. The final button opens up the browser view, where you can see information about all audio recordings in your project, access media files, as well as files on your computer. For example, if you have a sound bank of audio files like drum samples and sound effects, you can access them here and drag and drop them into your track. Alright, you have now learned what all buttons and feature does in the control bar of Logic Pro X. I recommend you to test them all out for yourself to really strengthen your knowledge of the control bar. I'm Mike, signing out, and you rock, my friends!